Warning signs for the economy. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.Heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look and go through this article that Jason Murphy is discussing on news.com.au, discussing economic warning signs. You know, flashing red, ominous signs, or ominous sign for Australia's economy. And you can see here what he's warning about. Now, he's concerned with, frankly, the decline in borrowing for businesses, for investment. It's the third time now it's gone under. First time was in 91, then in 2011, and now in 2021. Well, you know, we didn't technically have a recession at the GFC, but it pretty much was, depending on what sector you were. This was after the recession Australia had to have, and we've just had our first recession in 28 years. Now, there is a bit of a delay for the impact of a recession, everyone, for these warning signs. It'll take time. You have a recession, and boom, we're suddenly getting growth again. But the ramifications of that recession will take time, often years, to flow through to the economy. And here is, this is all about businesses borrowing money to invest. Some businesses are even borrowing money for expenses. I know the government does it, and I know the Queensland government does it, but it's just utterly insane. Who would do that? So Australia's economy right now is a giant frothy foam party of rising house prices and elevated consumer spending. It looks amazing in the short term, but beyond that, there's a warning sign that has just started flashing red. He's right. I mean, we'll have a look at a few things. Right now, people feel flush. Property prices are soaring at record rates, and many Aussies' bank account balances are also at record levels thanks to a year of huge government payments. Well, this episode, we're looking at the RBA to the rescue, but the government has come to the rescue, handing out money left, right, and centre, juicing up the economy. The so-called wealth effect is driving consumer spending and benefiting retail. The question is whether this is sustainable. Well, this is the thing. Government wants to juice up property, and the argument is there is a wealth effect here. Because of this wealth effect, you feel wealthier. You see, I click on my portfolio on my CommBank and it's saying your house is worth this much, you've got this much equity in it, and go, oh boy, well, my house is $1 million house, so I better buy that expensive fridge, or I need that Xbox One or that nice sofa because it's $1 million house. Kind of that way of thinking. And we find ways, honestly, we will find ways to justify spending, buying toys. We shouldn't, but we do. Cash in the bank is nice, but in the long run, jobs come from businesses growing. Yes, that's it. Businesses, private businesses, not the government. Private businesses, everyone. Government just takes money from one group and redistributes it to another one way or another. Just government employment is just another facility for that, everyone. I would advocate that we need to push for a reduction in the size and intervention of government in our lives, but that seems to be a losing argument these days in Australia. We'll get there eventually. Businesses need to invest to grow. They need new shops and factories and trucks. But in a very worrying development, lending for business development has turned negative. As the next chart shows, lending for business investment growth has turned negative only twice before in the history of the statistics. Once was in the 1990s recession, the second time was in the GFC, and the third time is now. We can see here, as we've said. I mean, we'll look at the RBA, where they've intervened. They're trying to encourage businesses to borrow to invest. I mean, is now the time to do it? Would you be brave enough to do it, everyone? To borrow money to invest and to grow your business when there's a lot of uncertainty out there? I mean, think about it. If you're in the tourism industry, would you be borrowing money to grow now when you can't even be certain that the government won't restrict access to the state that you're living in and that your business is in? So you might have to cancel hundreds of tickets or accommodation or anything. There's this level of sovereign risk now. We're living with that. So what does investment mean? It doesn't mean buying shares. When businesses invest, they invest in themselves. It means buying things that they can use to make their businesses bigger and better. Now, here's how we're saying buying shares. He's referring to that because a lot of businesses, particularly in the States, will do share buybacks. will borrow money and do share buybacks to drive up the price. So it's quite a controversial practice. Aldi might open a new supermarket. Woolworths might buy a better conveyor belt system for its warehouse. Toll may buy more trucks. KFC may open more outlets. So investing in the business. Basically, any spending on long-lasting things, they expect to help make the business bigger and more successful. That makes sense? Business investment is really important to the economy because those bigger businesses hire... Well, it's not just bigger businesses. I'd say all business investment, but he's focusing on the big end of town. They hire more people and make more stuff. Businesses investing now make unemployment go down in the future and the economic growth go up. There's a delay usually because they have to get the money, they spend it, for factories and things like that. Of course, there's an economic delay, but there's also a delay in the recession hit. You can say there's a delay in economic activity, but there's a delay in the recession manifesting through the economy. Businesses are borrowing to invest less than they were a year ago. That's new. Throughout the pandemic, credit for business investment was still elevated over a year earlier, until the most recent data. With the end of JobKeeper and the reduction of JobSeeker now behind us, the future is uncertain. Well, has the future ever been uncertain? I guess for the short term, for some businesses, they've had access to money just to keep it going. I'm worried about the small businesses that have kicked the can down the road longer than they should have, that have incurred additional costs thanks to government intervention. Lower interest rates are designed specifically to lift business investment. The idea is that if you have to pay less interest on these loans, businesses will feel more comfortable borrowing money to make their businesses stronger. There's even talk of some businesses just borrowing money for their expenses just to keep going. Now, that is concerning. The RBA has cut interest rates dramatically, as the next chart shows. But if lending for business investment is actually falling, it suggests businesses don't care about a near-zero interest rate. They're not willing to take on debt right now. Now, the cash rate, it isn't flowing through to businesses that well. And we'll have a look here at the RBA to the rescue, what they've been doing. This is the cash rate, as we can see here. It's at 0.1%. Remember when 3% used to be considered an emergency rate, everyone? Are we just getting old, those of us that remember that? Now, I thought we'd have a look at this. This is from September 2017. This is the COVID-19 outbreak and access to small business finance. Now, I know Jason has been talking about the big end of town. It's even more concerning for the big end of town, the big businesses, that if they're not investing, because a lot of them didn't feel any, impact from the lockdowns. Okay, they had, most of them did really well. Look at Bunnings. That's a thing to consider, guys, if you're looking for investments. Maybe buying in real estate investment trusts that own warehouses and logistics and factories for Bunnings and things like that. Even better if they pay a monthly dividend. Wouldn't that be nice? So let's look at the abstract first. The COVID-19 pandemic has adversely affected the business sector. Well, no, I'd say the government interventions and lockdowns and restrictions on the economy has adversely affected the business sector. We need to understand that this is happening because of government interventions. Okay, keep that in mind. No one ever mentions that in anything we look at. Overall, small businesses have been disproportionately affected because they are more likely to be in industries that have been hit harder by the lockdowns. Demand for new loans appear to be weak, probably because businesses are reluctant to take on debt given heightened uncertainty about the economic outlook. I mean, how would you feel if back in the middle of last year you were borrowing money you think, okay, tourism's going to come back, and then you're waiting for this Easter here in Queensland to get your hit, your money coming in, people visiting, and boom, lockdowns. The various short-term initiatives to support businesses' cash flow are also likely to have dampened the immediate demand for credit. At the same time, access to finance continues to be challenging for small businesses. Banks have tightened their lending practices in recent years and are more cautious about lending to businesses that have been significantly affected by the pandemic. Now, that's one thing that tends to just slip through the radar. Everyone's worried about lending standards for homes. They're going to make it too easy for the dumb plebs to borrow money. They'll just borrow to the moon. And we can't have people actually learning from their mistakes. No, because that might have a flow-on effect and actually affect the market. No. Just regulate the hell out of the dumb prawls and tax them to death. But imagine borrowing money for businesses. How many times for small business do they want you to put your house up? Do they want you to put this up? They make it really hard for small businesses to borrow money. So here we have, from June 2020, some charts from this report. Changes in revenue, and we've got 50 to 100% decrease. You can see here, look at accommodation and food, a decrease of less than 50% and stayed the same or increased. So accommodation and food's been destroyed. Arts, there you go. Everyone, look at this. Information, media, education. What's been doing well? Mining and utilities. They're probably the highest that have stayed the same. Then professional has stayed the same, and construction has stayed, a big chunk of them has stayed the same. But really, mining is the only one that more than 50% has stayed the same. Everyone else has either decreased, some nearly to 100%. And here's the access to support measures by industry, a share of all businesses. And we can see the businesses that are receiving support, and the government is still doing that, even though JobKeeper has come to an end. There are some businesses that will get continued support. Now, here we go, variable business lending, small business, EFS, medium business, and large business. It's all heading down. The average interest rate on credit outstanding. But let's have a look at how businesses are using their income support. And this chart is very interesting, from small, medium to large. Notice the difference. So this is a survey taken between the 15th of July and the 23rd of July 2020 of 997 businesses, asking how they use additional funds received through the Boosting Cash Flow for Employers measures, a tax credit of up to $100,000. Businesses could nominate more than one use. Shares are of businesses that reported receiving the tax credit. So this is showing you all just the money that was flowing out there. And you can see over 60% used it in small businesses to pay wages and salaries. A big chunk paid fixed costs. Some used it to repay debt. You can see medium businesses here. Large businesses put it all in, a big chunk of it into wages and salaries. Put into savings. So businesses were saving. And capital investment. There was some capital investment there, guys, but not as much as you would hope, at least. So, and this is another thing the RBA did. They provided a term funding facility for the banking system to support lending to businesses. Now, I remember when they were talking about this, and I just couldn't. I guess it's just my fear as a small business owner, thinking, why would you be borrowing money in our first recession in 28 years? It seemed nuts. So provide a term funding facility to the banking system. The objective of the Reserve Bank's term funding facility are to lower funding costs for the entire banking system so that the cost of credit to households and businesses is low, and to provide incentives for lenders to support credit to businesses, especially small and medium-sized businesses. The TFF was announced on the 19th of March 2020, and an increase in extension of the TFF was announced on the 1st of September 2020. On the 3rd of November, the interest rates on the TFF was reduced from 0.25% to 0.1%. Under the term funding facility, authorized deposit-taking institutions have access to funding from the Reserve Bank for 3 years at an interest rate substantially below their funding costs. Access to funding includes an additional allowance associated with an ADI's growth of business credit. See there, Jason is now talking about how particularly large businesses are not borrowing or money investing. Here we can see how in the middle of last year, the RBA was doing what they could. They were trying to juice up business investment, getting out all this free money there. People aren't taking it because they're worried. You know, it's different when a consumer sees all their money in the bank account and they go and buy a retail item. You know, there's juicing up all the FOMO that's driving up real estate in many ways. I think all the hype as well is having an impact. But what about businesses? Would you invest or borrow money right now for your business? Would you grow your business now? Let us know in the comments, and let us know what business sector that is. For every extra dollar of loans by ADIs to small and medium businesses, those who turn over below 50 million, ADIs have access to an additional $5 of funding from the Reserve Bank. For every extra dollar lent to large businesses, ADIs have access to an additional dollar of funding. See, look at that, 5x their access to funding. They were pushing the small businesses. The Australian government is supporting the markets for asset-backed securities through the Australian Office of Financial Management. This support is important as it helps non-banking financial institutions and small lenders to continue to provide credit to Australian households and businesses. So, some of the solutions, everyone, that we have to all of this. And one thing is, I would argue we need to appreciate that there will be some creative destruction in an economy, in a market. We've had our first recession in 28 years. Some businesses are going to fail. We're looking at insolvencies, personal insolvencies, about half of where they should be. External administrators entering into businesses about half of where they should be. People predicting 5,000 businesses are going to go under. With all of this out there, you're going to grow your business, particularly if you're business to business. So this is a quote from Austrian economist Joseph Schumpeter. Situations emerge in the process of creative destruction in which many firms may have to perish that nevertheless would be able to live on vigorously and useful if they could weather a particular storm. I mean, it's going to happen, everyone. Some businesses may have been fine, they may have survived. But here's the final chart I want to just draw to your attention. This is the default probabilities, internal ratings-based bank portfolios. For large businesses, residential mortgages. So residential mortgages and large businesses in June 2020, when this the data I received, is sitting at about 1%. So it's not that, not that high, everyone. But small businesses is SME and retail, SME corporate categories, and APRA's capital framework. Large businesses is the corporate category, and you're having nearly double of residential mortgages and large businesses. Over 2%, everyone. Just something to keep in mind. If we understand that it is necessary to have some creative destruction in the economy, it's unfortunate, it's going to happen, but that trying to kick the can down the road further with government intervention will have unintended consequences that will manifest in ways that our political leaders may not appreciate. Look at our housing bubble, everyone. And how many generations are paying the price, even when they don't realize it. As always, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you're a fan of my content and enjoy what I'm creating here, there's a few ways you can support us. You can join us on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links on Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or AussieBroadband. You can buy merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, guys. Have a great day, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye for now.